Alright, so today I'm going to be continuing with the so-called Stoneforge Trials. If you haven't seen my previous video, essentially what I'm doing is I'm trying a bunch of different shells for Stoneforge Mystic. I feel like Stoneforge Mystic is a very powerful magic card, specifically in Modern, and I feel like it's kind of underappreciated. And I especially feel like it's powerful because you can just kind of slot four Stoneforge Mystic and a Battered Skull and a couple of swords into pretty much any deck that runs planes, and it just kind of makes your deck better. So I'm putting that to the test. I tried it out last week with Mardu Pyromancer. Didn't go as well as I might have hoped, and I think I identified a few of the reasons, or one of the main reasons, why that deck didn't perform super well, and so I'm looking to try to correct that this week. So what I've got, the first deck I'm going to be running is I'm going to be running Eldrazi Taxes. You might have seen this deck before. We're basically running a lot of cheap white creatures, a little bit of Disruption, Stoneforge Mystic, some powerful Eldrazi. This deck gets kind of its name from like the Death and Taxes deck from Legacy. It's doing a lot of similar things. We're kind of trying to shut off our opponent's searching, then we'll Ghost Quarter them so they can't get another land, or we'll Path to Exile them so they can't get their land. There's a lot of fun combos, like Wasteland Strangler lets you process a card from your opponent's exile, so you can like exile a card from their hand with Untitled Scholar and then put it in their graveyard, so when your Untitled Scholar dies, they won't get the card back. Eldrazi's Placer lets you do some really fun things. It's just like repeatedly flickering a Flicker Wisp or repeatedly flickering a Thought-Knot Seer. I know a few of the things that you can do here. Definitely not aware of all of them, so I'll definitely might miss some lines that more experienced pilots of the deck might be aware of, but I hope I should still be able to do this deck justice. The big concern that you might have when you're looking at this list is, well, you have this Leonin Arbiter that makes it more expensive for players to search libraries, and I have this card that makes you search your library. This deck typically, or pretty much always, doesn't run fetch lands for this exact reason. It's one of the exact reasons you're running this card is to try to shut off fetch lands, and so it's a little... the Stoneforge Mystic in this deck definitely clashes with the Leonin Arbiter. I thought about taking Leonin Arbiters out altogether, but I feel like that's just such a crucial part of the deck that I feel like I can't really take that out of the deck. I still feel like it's worth trying out a deck with these two cards together. Just because two cards are synergistic doesn't mean they can't ever go in a deck together. I remember when Dig Through Time came out, a lot of people said that you can't run Dig Through Time and Snapcaster Mage in the same deck because Dig Through Time is exiling the cards that you want to be casting with a Snapcaster, and of course people quickly realize that you absolutely can run Dig Through Time in the same deck as Snapcaster Mage. So I mean, there are gonna be games we draw Leonin Arbiter without Stoneforge Mystic. There are gonna be games we draw Stoneforge Mystic without Leonin Arbiter. Even if we have them both together, like okay, we have to pay an extra 2 mana to search for our equipment. Maybe it's okay. It can definitely hurt sometimes, but on the balance, my theory is that Stoneforge Mystic, fetching up a sword or a Battered Skull is powerful enough that it's worth having these two cards that clash a little bit. So we're going to go ahead and give this a shot, see how Eldrazi Taxes does in a Modern League. And hope things go well. I'm definitely... The series is definitely stretching my deck building a little bit. I'm definitely not sure exactly the best way to be building sideboards, just building decks in general. I put these 7 cards in from a stock list I pulled FMG Goldfish. I'm not really sure where I'm supposed to be cutting cards out. I cut out a couple Filker Wisp, Wasteland Stranglers, put a couple of the Wasteland Stranglers back in the sideboard. Definitely not sure if that's right. I know that you are losing out on some fun things, being able to process... oops. I lost Wasteland Strangler. I know that you're definitely losing out on some fun things you can do. Flicker Wisp, synergy with Flicker Wisp and Wasteland Strangler, and synergy that each of those have with Eldrazi Displacer, but I don't know. We'll see how it works out. We're here for match number 1. We're up against Tarask. This is going to be a pretty painful hand. This is going to be an extremely painful hand. We can still afford to give it a shot at least. We've got some pretty powerful cards in our hand. And as long as we hit one land, we'll be fine. Having Caves of Koilos to go with the Eldrazi Displacer is pretty attractive. You know, if we're up against Burn or something, we'll certainly regret this. It's probably going to be humans now. Elemental. Oh boy. Well, this could be a fun one. Don't know what Elementals is likely to mean. Could be some sort of 5-color Horde of Notions deck. Haste. Whenever Thunder can awaken our attacks, choose an element with toughness less than this creature's toughness. Okay, okay. This might be the, there's a kind of Ball Lightning tribal deck in Modern. This might be that. Kind of want to try to strip something out of their hand. This attacks, choose an elemental with toughness less. Return that card tapped and attacking, sacrificing the next end step. Okay. Let's see what this fetches us. Yeah, so this is kind of the Lightning Skelemental deck. I feel like I really just don't want to let our opponent start hitting us with Lightning Skelemental. Steals combat entry, player discard 2 cards. Yeah, so we just really don't want this. We just don't want them to have access to this. Just trying to think through all the things that our opponent can do with this deck. I'm definitely not super familiar with this deck. I know that we're essentially trying to recur this card a bunch of times. Phantasmal Image looks like it can let you copy it, hit your opponent for a huge chunk of damage, make them discard their hand. Obviously, we're going to try not to let that happen to us. Eldrazi Displacer can do some fun things with Tidal Skull. If we can get up to 6 mana, we can start permanently exiling cards from our opponent's hand. Can also just really help us out if, just with this whole game plan our opponent has, if they're attacking us with a Skelemental, we can flicker it inside of combat. And then they're just going to have to sacrifice it again. Of course, the Sunderkin Awakener is just going to let them get it back every single turn, which is kind of irritating. Risen Reef represents a lot of potential card advantage for our opponent. So we're going to have to see how they play this. This looks like they're going for the Risen Reef. This is non-elemental, so they cannot get it back with the Thunderkin Awakener. Good to know. So did they put it in their hand? I guess they put it in their hand. Okay. Okay. I think I can attack with this Tidehauler Scholar and Eldrazi Displacer. Don't see too much advantage to Flicker Wisp. Having a Flicker Wisp out with an Eldrazi Displacer can definitely be pretty powerful. I don't think that's doing too much for us right now. So we're just going to go ahead. We can go ahead and attack with this Tidehauler Scholar. If our opponent tries to double block, we can give protection and kill something. Now I really need to start thinking about how exactly these displacer loops work. Because you can displacer something itself, you can also displacer the Flicker Wisp to keep something that's going to come back at the beginning of the next end step. So if you do it on, say, your opponent's end step, it'll stay out until your end step, so you can get blockers out of the way that way. You can kind of double dip on your mana. Okay, we got a Flamekin Harbinger. So our opponent is going to both get to search for a creature and put it into their hand. They're going to get a Spite Bellows. Okay, that's pretty scary. Yeah, so we are still going to be able to give protection from this, but they are then going to be able to get it back with the Thunderkin Awakener. So we're going to see what they're targeting with this. First, we're going to let them get their card back. And they're going to hit the Giver of Runes. So we're just going to... Because they can get this right back with the Thunderkin Awakener, so I think we want to go ahead and give the Eldrazi Displacer protection from red in the meantime, so that if they do attack with the Thunderkin Awakener, we can... eat the Thunderkin Awakener. So they are going to go ahead and make that play, which means they're going to put the Spite Bellows back into play. They can kill our Tidehauler Scholar to get the Skelemental back. They also got a land into play. But really, I just want to make sure this Thunderkin Awakener is not around to keep generating a bunch of advantage. So I am taking 6. And we are going to lose the Tidehauler Scholar. Okay. So Eldrazi Temple means that we'll be able to... If our opponent plays a Skelemental, we'll be able to flicker it out before attacks. And we're also going to be able to play a Giver of Runes. So this is fine. And the Eldrazi Temple means that we are actually going to be able to flicker twice next turn. I could play a Displacer now, but that means the Skelemental is going to hit us for 2 cards, so I don't want to do that. So this is fine. I feel like we're doing okay-ish. We have the board pretty well under control, but the Risen Reef is a pretty big pain. It's just going to draw our opponent so many cards. At this point. We are actually going to be able to displace her to flicker that Phantasmal Image, and that'll make our opponent have to sacrifice it. So that is something. But we are going to get pretty buried in card advantage here pretty quickly. I think we're going to have to displace that Thunderkin Awakener. So we're definitely going to pause inside of combat and see if we're going to do something else. Whenever a permanent you control becomes target of a spell or ability, counter that spell and its controller pays 1. Okay, that's pretty irritating. I think that means that we're going to flicker the Thunderkin Awakener now. And that's going to trigger Risen Reef again. Okay, this may be a bad plan. This may just be a bad plan. Okay. Okay, then. Alright, so how do we deal with this? I think the first step is going to be flickering the Risen Reef. Fortunately, we're not going to be able to flicker 2 things. Maybe we do have to let ourselves get hit by a hasty something or other. Don't think we can do anything here. Our opponent's with all the cards, all the mana they need. Fulminator Mage. Pretty not great. I think this game is pretty far out of reach. Well, we're definitely going to float some mana here. Don't feel like I can really fight them on the card advantage axis at this point, so I don't know that it really behooves me too much to blink their Risen Reef. Kind of just curious if they're gonna show me anything else interesting that I don't already know about. Let's see what they're getting with this Flamekin Harbinger. Shriekmaw. Okay, I think we're pretty dead here. Alright, well that is a very interesting deck. I think I could definitely use some Rest in Pieces. It's not just the Thunderkin Awakener that's... The Rest in Peace is really in shutting down the Thunderkin Awakener, though. A lot of the reason we lost that game was because of the Risen Reefs. So I really just need to be able to answer those. So I definitely want the Stranglers, and I think I want one Rest in Peace, maybe just one. I think Displacer's actually pretty good against Displacer's pretty good against Lightning Skelemental. I think I can cut a sword. Maybe I'll trim on the Leonin Arbiters. They're not doing any fetching. So I think we can afford to cut down on those. This will be okay. This hand will be able to answer an early threat. We'll get a turn 3 Thought Knot. This seems okay to me. In addition to being my first time playing this particular deck, it's also the first time playing an Aether Vial deck. I'm kind of excited to see how that goes. Haven't drawn one yet, but... okay. If our opponent has Thunderkin Awakener, we'll definitely go ahead and path that. Ancient Ziggurat. Not a card you see too often. You or a permanent. So I think we are going to path this now. Just because we want to make sure that our Thought Knot trigger is going to resolve. Stoneforge Mystic should be a good draw here. What is our opponent working with? I think we're definitely just going to want to take this Thunderkin Awakener. We don't really care about the Unsettled Mariner at this point, I don't think. Spite Bellows. I mean, our opponent is going to be able to answer the Thought Knot, but we can just get a Stoneforge Mystic in play and grab a sword and start going to town, I think. So this should be fine. Really just don't want our opponent stuck getting that recursion in play. Yep, that's the Spite Bellows. Seems okay. We have a pair of Stoneforges. Okay, we'll definitely play one Stoneforge. And I think we're pretty okay with just playing out the other Stoneforge too. That's not how we want to do that. Next turn we can put Sword of Fire and Ice into play and equip it to a Stoneforge and attack. The Unsettled Mariner would counter the sword trigger, so maybe we'd just rather have a Batterskull in play. Looks like our opponent found a Lightning Skelemental. That's kind of annoying. This is whenever it deals any combat damage to a player. Yeah, so that's okay. No sense in trading here. We can go ahead and... I think we want both of these equipment, so I think we can go ahead and discard the 2 non-equipments. I think that should be fine. We're going to be able to put both these equipment in play if we want. We cannot get an equipment attack in with the Sword of Fire and Ice, so we're definitely just going to pass here and hold off on making any decisions until we need to. If our opponent's getting a Lightning Skeletal back, that'll be really annoying. We do have a path up, so Incandescent Soulstoke. Okay. And a Smoke Braider. Okay. So do I care about either of these? I think I can put the sword into play and path the Unsettled Mariner. That way we'll be able to, on our turn, we'll equip the sword and attack, and our opponent will not be able to block, and we can kill this Incandescent Soulstoke, which is, I think, kind of what we're scared of. So we're just going to go ahead and path this. We will pay the 1 mana. Then we'll go ahead and activate Stoneforge. Put a sword into play. That's fine. Then we can equip the sword. We'll leave... It's 2 to equip. Right, I knew that. And go ahead and attack here. We're going to deal 2 damage to this Soulstoke. We have a Leonin Arbiter. I don't think that's really doing too much here. I think we'd rather just put a Batterskull into play. This is fine. Cool, we got that game. Do you want to make any changes here? Revoker would shut down the Incandescent Soulstoke or the Smoke Braider. Ooh, Plague Engineer on Elemental actually seems really good. I should have seen that before, probably. Yeah, this is gonna still let our opponent do some things, like the Spite Bellows is still gonna hit something, but it's gonna shut off. It's gonna shut off a lot. So yeah, that actually seems really good. That should have come in before. Maybe let's take out the other Leonin Arbiter. Do I care about Mirren Crusader? Probably not. Silly me not bringing in the Tribal Hate card against the Tribal deck. Our opponent very appropriately with the Omnath Avatar here. It's going to be 5 lands and a Stoneforge Mystic. I feel like that's probably not good enough. If we had a Leonin Arbiter in here somewhere, I might think about it, because we would be able to have the Strip Mine modes of Ghost Quarter active, but I feel like this is not really good enough. Sand is, I think, okay. It's pretty painful. Definitely a little worried about... there's a lot of pretty painful lands in this deck. I wonder if there's a better way to do that. I wonder if... I actually wonder if just straight up Godless Shrine, because I don't think this deck actually has Godless Shrines in it. You're not running Godless Shrines. I mean, you do, but Silent Carrying not tapping for colorless mana. I know, like, the reason the Caves of Koilos are in the deck, because you want to be able to have enough ways to produce colorless mana for Thought-Knot and Eldrazi Displacer. Yeah. As far as what we're putting back here, I think it's going to be a Giver of Runes. That could be the Flicker Wisp. Actually, I don't hate putting the Flicker Wisp back. It's pretty disynergistic with what our opponent's doing. I wonder if actually we shouldn't have cut the Flicker Wisps in the first place. Okay, okay. Go ahead and play Giver of Runes. Not too sure what our turn 2 play is going to be. Opponent with the Unsettled Mariner. Well, Eldrazi Temple, or Stoneforge Scholar is not even possible with our land configuration, and the trigger would get countered anyhow. I'm actually not too sure how good a Batterskull is against our opponent's deck. Our opponent's going to be attacking us with 6/1s. I guess the lifelink is pretty good. I also have a Giver Runes up. I guess there's really no reason to play the Arbiter over the Stoneforge Mystic at this point. Especially because the Arbiter would shut down our own Stoneforge Mystic. Mariner makes us want the Batterskull over the Sword of Fire and Ice. We're going to be able to... We have Giver Runes to protect Stoneforge, so we should just be able to be putting a Batterskull into play next turn. Risen Reef, definitely not a great thing here. We'd definitely like to be finding a path or a... I don't even have pushes, so definitely looking for a path here. This is going to enable us to put another Giver of Runes out. But this Risen Reef is going to cause us some pretty big problems. It's another Risen Reef. Wondering if we should have got the Sword of Fire and Ice. We didn't know that there were going to be Risen Reefs on the Rampage at that point, but perhaps we should have known that that's how we were going to lose this game. We're certainly not dead yet, though. We've got a Batterskull in play. That's always a good sign. Ooh, and Plague Engineer is going to be very strong here. This is not like an elemental or something. It's a germ. That's not even. It's just creatures of our opponents. Okay, so you can go ahead and just put this out. Name Elemental. And that all seems pretty good. I think we can just attack with everything here. I guess I should leave the Giver of Runes back. The other Stoneforge can get in. There's a Plague Engineer coming through pretty strong here. Spite Bellows, probably one of our opponent's best draws. Spite Bellows is still able to kill the Plague Engineer, even though it'll be a 5/0. Looks like our opponent might have that Spite Bellows. No, the Sword of Notions? Ingot Chewer. Okay. Well, that'll hit our Batterskull. That's pretty good. Pretty good. Okay. Okay, I mean, we can get in with Plague Engineer. We'll be able to give it protection from red if our opponent tries to block with the Ingot Chewer. So that's okay. We'll still have another Giver up. Yeah, I don't mind this. Our opponent maybe wants that Ingot Chewer in the graveyard to be able to get it back somehow. Not exactly sure how that would work, but either way, we'll go ahead and check out our opponent's hand. Okay. Well, we're not too scared of Lightning Skelemental. We're not super scared of Risen Reef. Omnath. Yeah, I don't think we want our opponent with an Omnath. I wonder why they didn't play that before. When it enters battlefield, 2 damage to target creature, because that is capable of picking off our Plague Engineer. Yeah, we don't want them to have one of those. Giver of Runes will also be able to protect the Titled Scholar if our opponent finds some other answer to it and wants to get the Omnath into play. I'm still not. I guess they were kind of locked into playing the Ingot Chewer to get rid of the Batterskull. But the Omnath seemed like a pretty defensible play there. Okay, so they're going to have the Spyfellows. But we are going to be able to protect whatever they hit, I believe. This is targeting... Oh, they're getting rid of a Giver of Runes. That makes sense. They're still going to need several movable spells to get out of this. Should keep track of what our opponent's got in hand. We can redraw here. Opponent 7, this game is looking pretty good at this point. Huge thanks to Plague Engineer for really turning things around. And that's the match. So how did Stoneforge do there? Stoneforge was, game 2 was very good. Getting us a sword and a Batterskull was definitely integral to us getting out ahead in that game. Game 3, it fetched us the Batterskull. Batterskull was really not what won us the game, though. What won us the game was the Plague Engineer. Just trying to think about how Stoneforge Mystic is performing, since that is sort of the point of the series, try to evaluate how good about Stoneforge Mystic may be. I'm overall think it performed about as expected in that match. Definitely so far liking this deck a little bit better than the Mardu Pyromancer. I'm definitely feeling we have the lands to be able to utilize Stoneforge and to utilize the equipment. So a really interesting deck from our opponent. I'm kind of interested in looking that deck up and maybe giving it a shot sometime. Looks like a lot of fun. Again, painful mana base. But I like the Leonin Arbiter Ghost Quarter, our opponent playing Obosh. That indicates to me that our opponent could have a pretty aggressive deck here. Which makes me not love the Silent Clearing as our only source of colored mana. I do like that we have a pair of Giver of Runes, but I think we just can't have a Silent Clearing Ghost Quarter mana base against an Obosh deck. So we're going to mulligan. Concealed Courtyard into Aether Vial, definitely a little bit better. Would really love another land here, but this is definitely going to be a keep. I think we can put back... I was going to put back an Extraneous Leonin Arbiter here, but maybe just want a pair of 2-drops. Thought STR is going to be pretty slow, but we'll get it out eventually. I think we'll put back the Leonin Arbiter. Alright, so is this Red Prowess with Obosh? Always yield. Yes. We are going to be able to put a Stoneforge Mystic in, but it's not going to do us a whole lot of good unless we're able to find another land. Wasteland Strangler not doing too much here. I think we're definitely going to hold this Giver of Runes. I don't want to try to block here. Get blown out by basically any spell. Blister Coil Weird. Okay, so we are just some sort of prowessy deck here. I don't know why it's asking me to put that trigger on the stack. There is a land, so that's nice. So we could go with the Leona Arbiter trick, but I think I really just want to get Stoneforge Mystic out, and well, we're not going to be able to activate it this turn, so we're just going to want to cast something with this mana. I think we want to maximize the chance that Stoneforge Mystic lives, so I think we'll just put Leona Arbiter into play and go ahead and pass. And this could definitely be a pretty big turn for our opponent. If they just go like bolt into, I don't know, something. Stomp, interesting. And damage can't be prevented this turn. Which I believe means that giving protection from red is not going to do anything, but I'm going to go ahead and do it anyway. Okay. Maybe that was a mistake to let you do that? No, I guess you were just going to do it after the Giver of Runes was dead anyway. Okay. Well, we're going to take some damage then. It's only 9 though, which is actually not that bad, and we're going to be able to put a Batterskull into play. We're definitely still not doing too bad here. I'd really love to draw an Eldrazi Temple here. That would actually let us get the Thought-Knot Seer and the Wasteland Stringer in play. It'd be pretty amazing. I wonder if this sort of Fire and Ice would be better, just be able to pick off a creature too. We're definitely going to take this up because we can cast our 2-drops. Not really casting our 3-drops at the moment. And I think we're just going to be passing here. We can Aether Vial in the 3-2. It's not going to be able to process anything, but that's okay. Wait, this is in exile. I should actually definitely do this now. Yeah, I should definitely do this now. We're going to target Soulscar Mage. Cool. And go ahead. So I did want to mention, I did realize that I don't know if saying that I screwed up the timing between Leona Arbiter and Stoneforge Mystic. If the Leona Arbiter had not actually died, I would have been punting pretty badly by putting the Stoneforge Mystic into play. Definitely didn't really consider that properly. It ended up working out okay because our Leona Arbiter died, but just noting that I did definitely kind of screw that up. Either way, we are going to be able to put this Batterskull into play and start beating our opponent's face in, hopefully. I do want to take this up to 4, just to make sure we can get our Thought-Knot Seer into play. I guess I want to do this now in case our opponent has like a gut shot. I'll just see what our opponent's working with. We'll get into the light up stage. And we can go to combat and just kind of start getting in here. Our opponent might double block and we can blow them out with a path. This seems fine. Otherwise, we're just starting to get our opponent dead here. Opponent with a Bomat Courier, a bunch of 1/1s and 1/2s. I feel like we're doing pretty okay here. because our opponent putting Obosh in their hand. Yeah, we'll probably just hold this path up for the Obosh. Okay. Don't need more counters on that. Do I want to be a little... Well, no, I really don't need to be scared of this Obosh. It's going to put our opponent to 11. We'll actually hold back on the Wasteland Strangler. It's not going to be getting our opponent dead here pretty quick anyway, so... And we do have an answer for the Obosh, so I'm not too concerned. Firebolt. It's dealing 2 damage to Wasteland Strangler, okay. But still, we're really not able to get in with anything meaningful here. We're good with those counters. Go ahead and keep getting in. Yeah, so Stoneforge definitely very strong here. Keeping us in the game against this pretty aggressive red deck. If we didn't have the Stoneforge, we would be pretty stonewalled here. We might have been able to stabilize, but we definitely would not be able to be attacking here. Batterskull just really holding the board down. Definitely liking what I'm seeing out of Stoneforge. Our opponent might be able to string together like a couple of lightning bolts, shoot something down, grow some creatures. We have double path. We'll just see if they're still in the chump blocking plan or if they're actually going to try to cobble something together. Okay, so this suggests to me that they're going to have a spell of some sort. They might be bolting the germ. Lava Dart, okay. So they're going to be able to grow these weirds up to a 3/3s. Now I want to think about whether I should path this Soulscar Mage before the germ gets -1/-1 counters. I think that I do not want to do that, because I think I'm just going to, unless they have a third spell in their hand, because I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to path one of the Blister Coil weirds so that those trade off. And I may lose the germ token here, but I'll keep the Batterskull, and that's kind of the more important part. And I really don't want to spend 2 paths. So I think this is all fine with me. And I assume we are... I guess if they're going to sack a mountain to Lava Dart, that puts them that much further away from Obosh. So maybe at this point I would be comfortable pathing the Soulscar Mage. Because that would put our opponent at... Depends if they have the other... Depends if they have another burn spell. If they had another burn spell, I think they would have done it instead of playing Lava Dart. So now I think we can pull the trigger on pathing the Soulscar Mage. I guess this is giving our opponent the land back, though. And if we path the Blizzcore Weird, then they're definitely getting the land. Okay, so actually I need to think about this now. If I path the Blister Coil Weird... Oh, but they dealt 1 damage to the Thought-Knot here. Okay. Yeah, so I am just going to let this happen then. Okay, that combat didn't exactly go how I wanted it to, but just as long as I have the path up for Obosh, I'm doing okay. our turn. I wonder if we're going to want to put the Battle Skull on a Stoneforge. No. I think not, because now we can play Stoneforge and put a sword in. So next turn we'll be able to start attacking with a sorted Battle Skull Germ token. I think we're definitely going to want Fire and Ice here. It'll be protection from our opponent's deck. And I'm expecting to be able to win this game pretty easily at this point. Sure. Your opponent is going to be able to flash back a Firebolt. They had a Firebolt in the graveyard anyway. So they'll be able to hit our other Stoneforge Mystic, perhaps. But should be game here. If opponent has some sort of removal spell. Okay, well, we can put the sword on the Stoneforge Mystic then. Fine, fine. Cool. Stoneforge again, doing pretty well there. So we are definitely gonna want Wasteland Stranglers. Beyond that, really not too sure. Thoughtseize doesn't really seem like where we want to be at. Damning Sphere could kind of slow our opponent down, but I don't think that's really where we want to be at. Plague Engineer may be okay. I think Flicker Wisp is a tad slow. Could maybe bring a Plague Engineer over to like a Thought-Knot. Thought-Knot even seems fine though. I could bring a Leonin Arbiter out again because it just doesn't seem like it's doing too much. Plague Engineer is just going to be a 3-mana 2/2 blocker. It is going to have Death Touch. I do like that. Yeah, I think it's probably better than Leonin Arbiter. Our opponent not doing any fetching, not much searching there, I don't think. So I think that's okay. Just the basic planes here. No Aether Vial. We do have 2 playable cards, but I don't think this is good enough. Send seems okay. I think we'll take a land back. Probably a Ghost Quarter. Question of what land player is interesting. If we play Eldrazi Temple. No. The reason to play Eldrazi Temple is that 2 Eldrazi Temples lets you play a Thought-Knot on turn 2, but we have neither the second temple nor the Thought-Knot. Whereas playing colored mana gives us the out to play Tidal Skull on turn 2. Our opponent did in fact reveal Obosh. And a pair of Bonecrusher Giants. Okay. Okay, not getting too much help here. Unfortunately, if we play the Stoneforge Mystic, we know that it's not going to live, because our opponent has revealed to us a pair of Stomps. So we're not going to put the Stoneforge into play. We'll probably just end up pathing one of our opponent's creatures. I wonder if our opponent is just gonna hard cast a Bonecrusher Giant. Doesn't seem unreasonable. We're gonna path it if they do that. Yeah, that's fine. Get that out of there. We'll take 2, but that's fine. Do maybe need to worry a little bit about Obosh. Just put our opponent up to 4 lands. We will in fact do this. That is a Leonin Arbiter. Okay, so we'll try not to make the same mistake we did last time. So we'll play the Stoneforge Mystic first. And we are awkwardly exposing ourselves to, actually, no, that's fine, because the Obosh isn't even in our opponent's hand yet. I was going to say we could put the Arbiter into play and Ghost Quarter land, but I don't think we care about our opponent having access to mana at this point. I think I'm pretty content to put an Arbiter into play and block the Blister Coil weird. Not too concerned with losing the Leonin Arbiter, and I'm happy to make our opponent spend some of their spells. Also just happy to block and absorb some damage. Anything I'm not casting now is anything that's going to make it harder to get the Batter Skull out of the way. Any spells they're pointing at the Leonin Arbiter, spells they're not going to have for the Stoneforge Mystic, although I kind of don't expect the Stoneforge Mystic to live. But we will be able to play the Batter Skull in just a couple of turns, even if our Stoneforge does not survive. Looks like our opponent's on the double dart Stoneforge plan. Which I don't mind too much. It does mean we're not killing this Blister Coil weird, but I wasn't honestly really expecting to kill it anyway. I'm just making our opponent spend some of their cards. Oh, they hard cast 2 Lava Darts. Okay, that's interesting. So our opponent is still going to be able to have 2 damage. They're down to 1 card in hand, though, so it's not too bad. Okay. And Obosh in hand. Okay. So I would really like to find a path this turn. I think I do want to go up to 3. Obosh. Ooh, interesting. Human Monk and Hellion Horror. Okay, well I can put that Plague Engineer into play. It can definitely be a surprise. I think I need it in play now, though, otherwise our opponent's going to be able to flash back a Lava Dart. Actually, if our opponent flashes back the Lava Dart, kind of okay with that. I'm usually no black mana, but I can use the Aether Vial. Yeah, I think I'm actually just going to name Weird here. And then this is just going to be a Death Touching blocker. Which is fine. It's maybe the first time that Plague Engineer has ever named Weird. I have certainly never seen that before. I wonder if in its limited environment if Plague Engineer ever named Weird. Alright, well that is in fact the Obosh. And I think... so this is going to go upstairs and hit us. Actually kind of expected it might hit the Plague Engineer. This one might be hitting the Plague Engineer. Yes. That does make sense. That means this is going to be an attack for 6. Silent Clearing is going to put us to 5 to play the Batter Skull. Sorry. I can do math. I can do enough math to know that we are dead. Alright. Let's go ahead and try game 3. Don't think Thoughtseizes are going to do it here. I don't think any of this is really what I want, so we'll just go on to game 3. We will go first. Definitely seeing a very painful mana base in this deck, which is not something I was expecting when I put this deck together. I'm not sure if there's a good way around it, though. Yeah, it's definitely not keepable either. This is going to have to do. Not liking Leonin Arbiters here. I feel like those could probably just have been sided out anyways, and these caves can go also. I'd be curious to look around and see if there's a better way I can rework this mana base. I feel like maybe now that we have Stoneforges, now that we have Stoneforges, perhaps the silent clearings are not exactly where we want to be at. Don't think I want to be getting Sword of Fire and Ice here. I don't feel like that's... I feel like we may have some trouble keeping a creature on board, so I get the Batter Skull. Silent Clearing, typically more of a card you want to be running in decks that don't need to be functioning on as many lands, or just like really mid-rangey decks that are going to be going a lot longer. I actually could have played the Eldrazi Displacer on turn 2 there. I mean, I just didn't think about that. Our opponent on 1 land. Back to the Silent Clearing. Since Stoneforge Mystic does make us a little more mana hungry, as I was talking about in the Mardu Pyromancer video, maybe those Silent Clearings don't actually want to be Silent Clearings. You can see them being Godless Shrines. Because we definitely had a few hands where we've... there's a hand earlier this game. I think our 6-card hand just had no colored mana. That was pretty sad to see. Definitely want to be keeping track if our opponent ever exiles a card for some reason. I'll be looking at the Wasteland Strangler out there. Not doing anything for us right now, but... this is actually going to let us Eldrazi Displacer and activate Displacer, which is pretty nice. Slow our opponent down a bit. 1 more land is going to get us to Batter Skull. Our opponent... with a bolt. Okay. Well, we can... I guess a Swift Spear. Keep things a little more locked down at least. Might just have to play the Strangler as a blocker. But it would be really nice to pair with a Path. We would nab both our opponent's creatures. Thought not. Very, very welcome here. Thought not will also put a card in the pile, or unless our opponent's got a pair. Okay. Unfortunately, we're not going to have the land to process that. We are going to be able to get that Firebolt. Amusingly, processing that is going to let our opponent cast it again. But such is life. And I hope our opponent is not casting his Bonecrusher Giant, because we'll be able to process it, but I think the chances of that are extremely unlikely. Yep. Okay. Plague Engineer. Okay, well, this is giving -3/-3. This only counts targets of spells. So I think we are definitely killing this Bonecrusher Giant here. Target the Bonecrusher Giant. Your opponent Firebolt back, but what can you do? And I really just want to get this Batter Skull into play. This Batter Skulls should be pretty powerful. Seem to have dropped a bunch of frames in the last minute or two. Sorry about that. I have learned how to record these locally, so at least when they're going up on YouTube, they should be much more pristine. That's perhaps the worst card our opponent could have drawn there. Very annoying. If we draw another Wasteland Strangler, though, we'll be pretty happy about that. And our opponent getting us to 8 here. We really want to land this turn for the Batterskull or Wasteland Strangler. This is... This could be okay. This could be okay. Not actually how this is going to work out. Depends what our opponent draws. Our opponent is presumably going to cast the Bonecrusher Giant. If they draw a spell and they get in for 4, it's pretty bad. Okay, I mean, I don't think I can afford to block. So opponent kills our Thought Knot, our sword is doing nothing. Actually, let's think about this. If we don't block, our opponent goes to 6. If we go to 6 and our opponent plays the Bonecrusher Giant, we equip the Sword of Fire and Ice. Are we attacking? I don't think we're winning if we're... I think the way we win this game is by playing the Batterskull. So in that sense, I think maybe we block and hope our opponent doesn't have something. So our opponent has the spell. I think we may still want to block just to be able to soak up the damage. Because, I mean, if it's a bolt, then, like, we'd be going to 1. So I think we are blocking. See what our opponent has. If they have a spell, I'm surprised they haven't cast it yet. It's another Stomp. Okay. So this does mean that our opponent is at least not casting the Bonecrusher Giant. Well, they could be, because they could be drawing a land here. But we did save ourselves a couple damage, and they did draw the land. At this point, pretty much on Batterskull or Bust. That's actually pretty good. We're going to be able to process this giant and kill the other giant. Choose this. Our opponent is going to be able to flash back Firebolt, kill the Wasteland Strangler and get in for 4. And they can flash back Firebolt next turn. So we are actually just dead on board if our opponent sees the line, which I think they probably do. I don't think there's any way for us to gain life right now. I don't think we're going to be able to exile the Firebolt from our opponent's graveyard. So we'll go ahead and pass something and see if our opponent forgets they have a second Firebolt. Seems unlikely. I guess we'll name Monk, Human. But we are just dead to the Firebolt. And our opponent's on the line. Okay, well, we lost to Mono Red Prowess. Feels like kind of a rougher matchup. Our opponent has removal for our Stoneforge Mystics, and basically everything else we're throwing in the way. I feel like our sideboard is not really tuned for this matchup. We definitely could be using some Fatal Pushes or something. Yeah. Definitely feels like a very winnable matchup, though. Batterskull would have been huge if we were able to get it down. Some really interesting interactions with the Wasteland Strangler and the Bonecrusher Giant, but doing okay, doing okay. I feel like I recognize this name from somewhere. Maybe we played our opponent in one of our other leagues. This hand looks fine. Got some interaction in path. Sword in hand is not exactly what you want to see, but can't have everything. Looks like sword will be giving us protection from our opponent's deck, more or less. Stoneforge Mystic down. We have a Batterskull in hand. I did not realize we had the Batterskull in hand. But definitely makes our hand a bit worse. Certainly a bit worse. Polluted Delta. Okay, maybe our opponent is on like 4-color Death Shadow. Something along those lines. Sultai. Just like a Sultai Uro pile. I think we can wait at least a touch before pulling the trigger on this path. Don't want to be ramping your opponent too hard. I think we are definitely going to go ahead and run the Flicker Wisp out there next turn. That way we'll be able to try to get a sword equipped to it. Don't know if we're going to path this turn. We might... Actually, I think we are going to path this turn because we're going to be playing Flicker Wisp on the following turn. So we are ramping our opponent a bit here, but I feel like that is acceptable. See if our opponent's got to play on 2 mana. Cling to Dust, Exiling Path. Okay. Sure. Yeah, so definitely looking at our opponent is just sort of on some sort of Uro pile here. Let's go ahead and flicker out a land. It's fine. We're not doing anything with it, but we can at least represent path with it. And our opponent not getting a whole lot done so far. There's another Goyf. Sword will be good against that, but the creature does have to live, which I don't have super high hopes for. That is a path. That is going to be useful. So I am thinking about Leonin Arbiter and Ghost Quarter here and path. Actually seems pretty good to me. I think they just cut our opponent off of a lot. Yeah, I like that. I like it. Opponent gonna go ahead and float blue. See if they want to use it. They do not. Now do we want to cut our opponent off of blue or black? I feel like we'd rather cut our opponent off black. Cool. It seemed like a very positive turn for us. Hopefully we're stranding a number of cards in our opponent's hand. Our opponent was able to accomplish exactly nothing there. And I'm actually not sure if I want to play the Sword or the Displacer here. The Displacer will represent a lethal attack. The Sword will also represent a lethal attack. But the Sword could maybe just spend our entire next turn doing nothing. I think I'll play the Displacer. Seems like the more, what's the word? I can't think of the word. The more, not the more justified line, the more, disciplined line. That's the word I'm looking for. Alright, so we're putting on some kind of Uro pile. I think I want to... Well, I'm assuming they're on an Uro pile. If you're running mid-rangey Thoughtseizes and blue and green in your deck, you're running Uro at this point. I think I'll bring in 2 Rest in Peace. I don't know that I need 3. I think Mirroring Crusader is probably likely to be pretty good. It's going to have protection from most of our opponent's deck. think... I think I can cut a sword. I think our opponent's probably gonna have a lot of removal. Actually, I think I can leave the sword in. Well, it's hard to say. I think a sword on a Mirror Crusader is a pretty big game. I do want to leave the Leonin Arbiters in. I'm not sure what creatures are that are Wasteland Strangleable our opponent is going to have, so maybe I take those out. Definitely like Giver, I like Path. I like all this. Maybe I only leave one Rest in Peace in. We'll try this. Definitely not really sure how to be sideboarding here. Also not 100% sure about the Rest in Pieces. I think we're fine with this hand on the strength of the Aether Vial. Definitely want another land to be able to actually put our Stoneforge. This is 3 Stoneforge. So the different art tricked me a little bit. I thought we had a little more variety in our hand, but nah, this Aether Vial is going to get Inquisition, which is pretty bad for us. It's very unfortunate. I really should have considered they were playing up against the Thoughtseize deck. Our opponent actually going to take the Path. That's interesting. I wonder if that means that they have a Kolaghan's Command in hand. I also did not see red from them last game. I thought they were just straight Sultai. So I think they are... Indicates to me that they probably are just 4-color Death Shadow. Does 4-color Death Shadow run Uro? Maybe it doesn't actually. Actually, I'm not entirely sure what our opponent is doing. Yeah, so we are on the 1-land special here. A little worrisome. Tarmogoyf already a 4/5. Yeah, definitely a Death Shadow deck of some variety. I very much meant to use this. That's really irritating. I guess I can just go ahead and cast the Giver of Runes. Well, I can put the Leonin Arbiter in play and Ghost Quarter land. I think that's really doing too much because our opponent has the Tarmogoyf in play, so setting each other back on lands is benefiting our opponent. I think I probably just Violin the Stoneforge and cast the Leonin Arbiter. Maybe I cast 2 Stoneforges. Those seem bad. I think I just cast the Stoneforge and I'll Violin the Leonin Arbiter at some point, maybe in combat to block. I will use this. This has to be the Batterskull. And then we'll just pass turn. It's very annoying that we don't have a Giver of Runes in play. We should have a Giver of Runes in play here. It's just me pushing 1 too quickly. And our opponent has a Go for the Throat. Yeah, sure. What we may actually do is maybe just put another Stoneforge into play so that we can try to sneak the Batterskull into play. Yeah. I think that's our plan. Opponent does know that we have all these Stoneforges, though. So maybe this is not accomplishing too much. Dismember? Dismember. We will still get a sword, of course. And a land will let us put the Displacer in play and displace the Tarmogoyf. Of course, we did not draw that. So 2 cards. 2 cards, I think we're just putting the Stoneforge Mystic in. We're casting the Stoneforge Mystic. Hoping we'll finally be able to put Batterskull in. Or we're putting Displacer into block. Is that what we want to be doing? If our opponent has no removal. Yeah, I guess the Displacer is what we're doing here. I think we do want to play around Lightning Bolt. Temur Battle Rage is going to be exactly lethal. Okay. We're definitely not doing super well in that game. Starting hand with 3 Stoneforge Mystics was a little awkward. Don't know if anything changes now that we have one of our opponents on 4-color Death Shadow. Maybe the Rest in Pieces are pretty bad. Yeah, I definitely had the Rest in Pieces in thinking our opponent was more on a Uro pile. This hand I think is fine. Stoneforge and Batterskull in the opening hand is definitely awkward, and not being able to activate the Eldrazi Displacer is awkward. Would rather have a somewhat different configuration of lands in our opening hand, but I think this is still fine. It's hard to mulligan against the Thoughtseize deck. Because I don't actually want to F6, I might want to pass something. Nope, okay. Eldrazi Temple. Opponent has a stop in our draw step. Interesting. I mean, I guess we still cast the Stoneforge Mystic. I don't expect it to live. I guess now that I played the Swamp, I'm kind of locked into that. I also had the option of playing the Eldrazi Temple to put the Eldrazi Displacer in. We will go ahead and fetch our sword. And I'm definitely seeing these situations where we just kind of get stuck with our equipment in hand. Not too much to do with it. Definitely one of the shortcomings of Stoneforge decks. Opponent with a Death Shadow. If we played the Eldrazi Temple last turn, we could have had a Displacer plus path. What to do here? The safe line is just to go ahead and path Death Shadow right now. Green line is to go ahead and play the Displacer and just try to have it up to be annoying. I'd be pretty surprised if it lived. At the same time, I think we can take a hit from Death Shadow. So I think we can go ahead and take this line. Really wish I had played my lands differently so I had another Plains up, but... Okay, our opponent has Dismember the Displacer. It's also going to make the Death Shadow pretty large. But we should have that covered with the path. Would love to draw Thought-Knot here. Would be very good. Maybe not F6 and just tell our opponent that we don't have Fatal Push. Definitely not liking too much where we're at here. The equipment's just not really getting anything done. We are presumably going to be able to path this Death Shadow. We're going to take a pretty large hit from it, though. I don't expect a battle rage from our opponent. Breeding Pool could be indicative of a Stubborn Denial. I don't know too much about what 4-color Death Shadow decks look like. And now we have the second Death Shadow, which is sort of the problem. We'll be able to deal with one, presumably, but the second one is where things get problematic. See if this even resolves. It does. It does. We're going to be able to play out... Do I even want to play out a Giver of Runes? Would I rather play a Rest in Peace for some reason? Would I rather play out a sort of Feast and Famine for some reason? Probably not. If I play out Sword, then I could go Giver of Runes Equip. That's something. Does that make any sense? What's my line to win this game? Probably getting a Giver of Runes with a Sword on it. So I think that means I take this kind of unusual line. I guess drawing Path next turn is also an out. Temur Battle Rage is still going to wreck us even if the Giver has Pro Black. Temur Battle Rage is going to wreck us now, it looks like. It's not even a Temur Battle Rage. But it is still going to wreck us. Okay. Well, Eldrazi Tex is down to 1 and 2. Yeah, we can just concede. We did get a game off both of our losses, so Proven deck does have some legs, but Stoneforge Mystic may be really just not all she was cracked up to be. I definitely really am enjoying this sort of exploration of this one card, though. I'm learning a lot. I'm learning a lot about deck building. I'm learning a lot about just the pluses and minuses, card evaluation. A really useful experiment for me, so I'm really enjoying it. I hope anybody else listening to this is also enjoying learning a bit about Stoneforge Mystic. I'm hoping to cobble together a Reddit post at some point in the next little while. I'll probably wait until I have a few more of these videos recorded. But I'm planning on doing this for a little while. I've got a decent chunk of decks lined up that I want to try out with the Stoneforge Trials, so hoping to find something valuable at some point. Here, this side looks solid to me. Eighth of Isle really tying things together here. We do have a Leonin Arbiter Ghost Quarter combo. Also a Leonin Arbiter Stoneforge Mystic combo. Looks like our opponent perhaps on blue-white control. Blue-white Stoneforge. We'll have a bit of a mirror of the Stoneforges. Our opponent with a Sword of Feast and Famine. Okay. And now we want to think how we want to do this. I think we're probably just going to want to get our own Stoneforge Mystic online. We're not going to be doing any Leonin Arbiter shenanigans this turn, but I think next turn is the turn we can really start to think about that. I think we are instead going to get a Batterskull. Does that make sense? It actually does make sense here. We have several creatures in our hand, and I think we're not going to have too much trouble being able to connect with something, and so I think that actually does make us want either Fire, Ice, or Feast and Famine. I think I'm actually going to go for Fire, Ice. This is going to make next turn really interesting. Interesting, our opponent with no land. Okay, so this is going to be really interesting. If our opponent goes to activate the Stoneforge Mystic, we get to double Ghost Quarter and path the Stoneforge Mystic. We might not even pull the trigger on the path. We might just go Ghost Quarter, Ghost Quarter. Yeah. Yeah, okay, go. We have an Aether Vial to be able to operate pretty well with no lands. So I like this. Yeah. Okay, so this is where we get you pretty good. Use Aether Vial's ability. Yes. Put this into play. Sack this, hit that. Sack this, hit that. And I am curious to see whether our opponent will put in a Batterskull that we weren't expecting, perhaps. It is, in fact, a Batterskull that we were not expecting. So that being the case, I think that we are going to path. We're going to have to path this. Yeah, we're going to have to path this Batterskull token. Okay, so that went really well. Leonin Arbiter is a fun card. Okay, so our opponent on blue-white Sharkblade, perhaps? Stoneblade, something? I think Wasteland Strangler is going to be a fine card. Revoker could be okay. And I think we're perhaps maybe not even interested in Giver of Runes. Your opponent probably not running a ton of targeted removal. I think we could maybe go down like that. Is this terrible? Do you just like never do this? I wouldn't be surprised if you never do that. But I'm doing it because I don't know any better. Okay, 2 lands with an Aether Vial, but the sword in our hand is pretty awkward, and just 3 and 4 drops. I feel like sand is probably not a keep. Yeah, we're gonna mulligan. So 1-land Aether Vial hand, but with some cheaper creatures. We've got a Tidal Scholar Wasteland Strangler combo. I think we'll put back Eldrazi Displacer. Is Eldrazi Displacer or Thought-Knot? The Eldrazi Displacer can get pretty mana hungry. The Thought-Knot is a ways off, but Thought-Knot is just such a great card. Could also be Path. Path a good way to set up the Wasteland Strangler, though. I think I'll put the Displacer back. It's a rough decision, though. Our opponent's on 5 cards. We do have an Aether Vial, though. Aether Vial, pretty solid card in this situation. Curious about the timing of when exactly we want to put this Tidal Scholar into play. Depends if our opponent plays a creature. Because like I could cast it next turn, but I think I might want to wait until the Aether Vial is on 2, and then I can put it on end step and then put the Wasteland Strangler into play. Just sort of minimizes the possibility of our opponent being able to get the card back from exile. Having Stoneforge may also change that. Might just want to try to snipe the Batterskull. Not too clear. We'll see what we draw. Okay, now that we've drawn a second Tidal Scholar, I think we can definitely just go ahead and play the first one. Well, I think we kind of just have to take the path here. Force negation is something we're gonna need to play around. We're gonna want to make sure we path on our opponent's turn. Maybe it is actually the Batterskull, just to try to stop our opponent from being able to path and then put the Batterskull into play. But we have a path for the Batterskull token, so I think that's fine. I think we just take the path and try to line things up. Okay, our opponent with no land. So I need to be careful if they... Yeah, I need to be careful how I play this. Can actually put the Tidal Scholar into play in response to Stoneforge activation. I like that line. Which means I can actually attack with this Tidal Scholar. Wonderful, wonderful. If they have a second Batterskull somehow, this is pretty terrible. They have a second Stoneforge Mystic. That's kind of okay. Cool, cool, cool. That worked out nicely. Opponent now with 3 mana. Are they feel ruining us? Are they casting a second Stoneforge? Okay. Stoneforge down. Sort of Feast and Famine in hand. Okay, so I think what I'm willing to do at this point is I'm willing to path a Stoneforge. Next turn I'll be able to Wasteland Strangler to kill the other one. And then our opponent's hand is pretty well stranded. Go up to 3. Go ahead and put this into play. Target Stoneforge. I think Batterskull is the thing we just want to make sure our opponent doesn't have access to. If they get a path, that's fine. We got plenty of creatures. And we'll take that match down. So we're coming out on top on that match. That definitely due more to the Eldrazi the taxes half of the deck rather than the Stoneforge package we shoved in. But that's fine. We'll take our wins where we can get them. It just doesn't tell us too much about how the Stoneforge package is performing in the deck. But good to know that we're putting the Stoneforge package into a deck that is doing powerful things as it is. The hand seems fine. We can go turn 1, turn 2, turn 3. We are going to need to... I mean, again, painful mana base. Really wish there was a better way to do this, but I guess we are sort of a 3-color deck because we are running colorless cards. Cards requiring colorless mana. We are playing for the winning record here. Hoping that'll work out. Nothing in combo with the Leonin Arbiter right now, but that's fine. I wonder if Caves of Coilless Giver of Runes is a complete giveaways to our deck. It probably is. Path is a combo with Leonin Arbiter. I think we can go ahead and attack with this Giver of Runes. Well, are we gonna care about getting 1 damage in? We're probably the beatdown in this matchup. Not that I know what this matchup is. I'm sort of expecting it to be some sort of arrow pile. I think I'm content to get in for 1. Seems like a bit of a strange decision. Maybe that's wrong. Dunno. Another Thought Knot. Yeah, we'll go ahead and play Thought Knot pre-combat, see if there's... Would hate to attack a Leonin Arbiter with a Snapcaster and suddenly turn on all our opponents' fetches or something. Ghost Piles is indicating... Ooh, Field of Dead. Okay, I think it's pretty clear what our opponent's doing at this point. Well, well, well. What have we here? I feel like we're probably just on taking Fact or Fiction here. I don't think Force Negation is that important. I don't think they're going to have creatures we care about pathing. Ren and 6, kind of interesting, but don't think that's really relevant here. It's possible if we exile our Nexus of Fate, they have no win condition, but that strikes me as not something we want to bank on. So we're just going to take the Fact Fiction, and we're going to start trying to turn up the heat. Our opponent, fortunately, it seems not finding a land to cash in the Fact or Fiction. We are just going to keep trying to attack our opponent with a Remand. Okay. Should probably have looked at whether this not attacking with this Giver of Runes is going to change our clock at all. Maybe should have left this open. Opponent's still not finding land, and our beatdowns are getting the job done. Okay, so I think we're going to want Thoughtseize against this deck. Rest in Peace. Doesn't seem too relevant. We could have Uros. I'll bring 1 in. I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna make him show me something. Gideon could be strong here. I think Fire and Ice is probably not sniping anything down. I don't think we need Wasteland Stranglers here. And maybe I can just cut a Giver of Runes. Actually, kind of like a Mirran Crusader here. Mirran Crusader with a sword on it can be pretty strong, and I just don't think we really need the Giver of Runes here. I think that's just kind of not what our opponent's deck is trying to do. Sand casts a turn 2 Thought Knot, but it does nothing else. How good is that? Probably not good enough when our hand doesn't do anything else, unfortunately. This is a land Earthy Vial hand that is not casting Thought Knot. Or is not casting Thought Seize, rather. Thought Knot, Thought Seize. I think we'll put the Thought Seize to the bottom because of that. We're going to have an Aether Vial this game. That's always something we like to see. We are only on one land, though. This is not something we really like to see. Mirror Crusader are able to attack through Field of Dead zombie tokens. It's always nice. Our opponent is not just straight blue-green. I guess we just didn't see the red last game. But our opponent definitely on Reclamation. Some sort of Reclamation, Nexus of Fate, some such deck. Okay. That is going to be a land. Unfortunately, it is not going to cast either of our 2-drops. Sad face. So it's like a growth spiral. It's fine. It's funny to me how these standard cards are just going straight into modern. This entire deck almost just a standard deck, and you just get to play it in modern, and it's like good. Fun times, fun times. What do we have here? Anything on 3? Anything on 4? OTFOF? You lose? It used to be a meme, I think. That is a Wilderness Reclamation. At some point we might get to do some fun tricks where we like put a Flicker Wisp in on second main and flicker out the Wilderness Reclamation to keep our opponent's lands tapped down. That is a fun thing we might be able to do at some point. Our opponent running a mix of, presumably running a mix of snow-covered basics and non-snow-covered basics, so that they are lands with different names for Field of the Dead. Eldrazi Temple still not casting a bunch of our cards, which is unfortunate. I think we'll stop on our opponent's draw step to put in a Tidehollow Scholar. Kind of expecting a Fact or Fiction here. Bolt. Okay. Let me see your hand, please. Draw step, Fact or Fiction? Fun times. Well, I think the good cards here are Lightning Bolt and Field of the Dead. I kind of just want to go Field of the Dead against everything else. That might be kind of crazy. I don't want them to have Lightning Bolt because Lightning Bolt can answer Mirror Crusader, although my opponent doesn't know that. Remand here is pretty dead. I could do something like this. Remand is mostly dead because of our Aether Vial. I'm thinking about this. If I do this, I expect our opponent to take Bolt Growth Spiral. I just don't want them to have the Field of the Dead. That may have been a terrible split. Bold and Growth Spiral in their hand. That's fine, I think. So we'll go ahead and take... Ooh, there's an Uro. How do I feel about an Uro? Uro seems pretty good. And yeah, I still kind of have to take the Bolt. That's okay, because I can also take the Uro by stopping on my upkeep. That Mystic Sanctuary is going to get a Bolt back. Okay. I want my opponent to draw a card. Does their opponent have in hand? I guess they're getting this Lightning Bolt back, huh? And Bolt. No? Interesting. And we know they have Bolt in hand now. And an Uro. So I could just put this other Tidal Scorer in and I'll have a Bolt. They're gonna get the Uro in play. We can hope to like... Yeah, this is fine, I guess. Presumably they'll get their Bolt back. You get your Bolt back in hand. And you don't want to Bolt this now, otherwise I take your Uro forever. Actually, I could have done this. I could have done this so much better. Okay, yeah. So this is, well, no, not necessarily, because I can't cast the Fukarisp or the Tidal Skull with my mana. I kind of have to take the Bolt here, and I do want to do that. Okay, Displacer is good. Well, not really. I was thinking that Displacer would let us keep the Uro in check, but that's just going to keep giving them Uro triggers. Mirror Crusader would be able to Stonewall it, but again, they are going to get Uro triggers. So this is an interesting spot. Not entirely sure what to make of this situation. Okay, our opponent's going to get Lightning Bolt. Oh, that's not good. Yep. Yep. That was a very good draw from our opponent. They're just going to go Bolt into Bolt. They're going to clear our board. Actually... So they're targeting the Lightning Bolt. That's fine. Then they're going to cast an Uro. I'm going to Ghost Quarter in response. They're going to have to not search, right? Otherwise, they're not going to get their Bolt. Opponent, I think, choosing not search, which makes sense. Yeah, no, our opponent. Bolts are Tidal Scholar, Bolts are Eldrazi Displacer. They're going to be out of Bolts, so I can put Mirror Crusader in to Stonewall the Uro. And like this is where I could use a Stoneforge, because being able to put something on the Mirror Crusader would be a really big game. Our opponent is empty-handed. Yeah, so we'll go ahead and play this Mirror Crusader. And we'll do this trick I was mentioning where we can phase out your Wilderness Wreck, hilariously. Or we can Flicker Wisp out our Mirror Crusader, and if our opponent draws some sort of removal. Expect our opponent to just escape the Uro here, though. Yep, that's an arrow. You got it. Why does our opponent have 2 cards in it? It's the card they drew and the card off the arrow. Yep. Got anything else to do? Could really use a path for this arrow. So it's going to be Uro against a Mirror Crusader and a Flicker Wisp. I feel like we're going to lose that fight in the end. But we at least have a protection from Uro. We'll go ahead and do this funny trick. Cut our opponent off a bit of mana. Maybe they had a Factor Fiction or something. No. Stoneforge Mystic would be great here. Path is excellent. Yeah, let's go ahead and attack and then path the arrow, and then we might be in really good shape. Remand would be bad. Any sort of Force of Negation would be bad. We kind of just have to go for it now. Cool. Cool. We probably should have done that before, and then we could attack with the Mirror Crusader as well. That was spewing off some damage there. What could our opponent have here? Field of Dead would be pretty bad. Got 3 cards in hand, so there's a good chance they have something. This looks like a Nexus of Fate. Hardcast Shark Typhoon. Okay, well, we're on a clock here then. We're on a clock, boys. And Wilderness Wreck gonna get our opponent a lot of value here. Hardcast Shark Typhoon, you don't say. Mirror Crusader, unfortunately, not having protection from flying sharks. Come on, Stoneforge. It's not really what we were looking for. I think we still attack with everything here. If we lose a Mirror Crusader, that's pretty bad. Yeah, like Growth Spiral is fine. Shark trading with the Flicker Wisp is... I mean, what can you do? This sort of thing was going to happen eventually. It's just the Crusader we want to not lose. Yeah, like our opponent might trade both of these for the Mirror Crusader. Because really the double strike is what we want to preserve. Still more stuff. Yeah. Okay, so I think we're probably out of this now. A resolved Shark Typhoon. It's not something I think we're in a good position to beat. Just in general with this deck. We'll give it a few turns. If we could find like a Stoneforge and a Batterskull and a, I don't know, something. But it's not looking good. It's looking extremely bad, really. Yeah, okay, well, wait, let's get this up. Okay, so Wilderness Reclamation. Do you want to bring this sort of Fire and Ice in? Have protection from the sharks and from our opponent's various red removal would be nice. Feast and Famine actually not doing too much here, so maybe we'll just swap the swords and call it a day. I am interested in bringing Rest in Peace in now, actually. I think Flipper is not doing great against sharks. Maybe bring in a Giver of Runes. I think that'll do. Opponent is going to have a Braid for our Aether Vial, so that's important to keep in mind. Maybe not wanting to lean too heavily on an Aether Vial, like a one-land Aether Vial hand. It would be nice to have some sort of disenchant effect for Wilderness Reclamation. Or for a Shark Typhoon, for that matter. Yeah, we'll see. This Gideon could be pretty strong if I'm able to resolve a Gideon. But, alright. Match 5, Game 3, tied up at 2-2. 2-2 in matches, 1-1 in games. Playing to be over 500. Opponent really wondering what to be doing here. Alright. 2 lands. Yeah, I like a lot of things about this hand. Let's keep it. Not sure. So we are again going to have this question about Leonin Arbiter versus Stoneforge Mystic. Given that I have a sword in hand already, I'm a little bit more inclined to just cast this Leonin Arbiter. I'm going to be able to play the sword and equip it and maybe start going to town. Yeah, we're going to go for it. We got plenty of plays apart from the Stoneforge Mystic as it is, so not too concerned about having a Stoneforge Mystic clogging our hand. And we have an equipment anyway, so I think this is fine. Our opponent is fetch shocking, so that implies to me they probably have a bolt for this. Sure. Sure thing, good sir or madam. Just means we'll be able to Stoneforge for a Batterskull. So I could be on the Stoneforge plan here. Next turn I could put Batterskull in. So like, I think Eldrazi's Placer is the threat that I would ultimately rather have in play. So I'm also just kind of baiting out whatever removal my opponent has. We will get a Batterskull. Sure, sure. Not really expecting it to untap with the Stoneforge Mystic. Okay, this is fine. We will... I think we can just go ahead and path this now. Yeah, I'm pretty okay with that. It looks like we might be able to be untapping with our Stoneforge. Still definitely possible. Our opponent like puts an untapped land, abrades our Stoneforge. Though at this point, maybe they just want to abrade the Batterskull. Or they could just build the Stoneforge, or any of a number of things. We will wait and see. Red and 6. Sure. Okay. Rest in peace. Pretty... Ooh, interesting, interesting, interesting. So it's really interesting because I'm gonna put the Batterskull into play with the Stoneforge. But it's interesting whether I want the Displacer in play or the Rest in Peace in play. I think I want the Displacer in play just so I have another thing that can carry equipment. Rest in Peace would be shutting off Ren and 6, which is something, but I don't think it's like super important. Yeah, we'll see what happens here. Our opponent's got 4 cards in hand, so definitely a lot they could be doing. But I'm going to start being able to do some pretty powerful things here pretty soon. Might be able to get a Sword of Fire and Ice on the Batterskull token. That would be quite something. Displays are not particularly synergistic with a Germ token, unfortunately. Anger of the Gods. Okay, well, we will go ahead and put in a Batterskull. And hopefully that'll be fine. Opponent is tapped out of red, so... Oh, right, you can Ren in 6, that's fine, that's fine. Alright, well, we can play out a Rest in Peace here. We'll eat your graveyard. And if we get our hands on a creature, we'll be in business. We can pick up this Batterskull and play it again. It's definitely an option that's available to us. Actually, it was probably better to do that than to play the Sword of Fire and Ice, if I'm being honest. Did not really think about that line. This looks like a Wilderness Reclamation. Wait, this is an upkeep. What is our opponent doing in upkeep? They're scrying an upkeep. Wow, they're digging for something. They're tapping out like this in their upkeep. That's really interesting. One top, one bottom. So they found something. Maybe they're just like really desperately trying to find a braid? Don't know. Thoughtseize? Sure, guess. Could be Ghost Courting this Castle Vantress. Seems a little loose. Okay, so this Abrade makes things really interesting. think I have to take the Cryptic command. If they ever try to pull the trigger on the Abrade, I can pick up the Batterskull. I just can't try to pick up the Batterskull unless I get another mana, which is certainly plausible. It's a land that returns to hand. I guess that's to synergize with whatchamacallit, Field of the Dead. Alright, well, now we can Thoughtseize away the Abrade so we can actually pick our Batterskull up. Maybe they Abrade the Sword of Fire and Ice instead. What is this? Nexus of Fate? Shark Typhoon for 6. Yeah, that's a card. That will end the game here pretty quickly. Take your Braid, we'll pick this up. And we'll pass turn. That, along with Wrenn and 6, is actually going to end the game before Batterskull gets to attack. So I'm going to need a path here. Sure. It's going to be 6 and 1 and then 6 and 1, so. Gonna need a path. Gonna need Eldrazi Displacer would do it. Yep. We have one draw step. That's very strong. And that is not gonna do it. Alright. Well, we finished 2 and 3 with Eldrazi taxes. No, it's hard to say. I have not played Stoneforge Mystic decks before this whole experiment of mine, so you know, we find these situations where our equipments are just really not doing much of anything, and it's hard for me to tell if that is a function of the deck not really working, or if that is just something that you have to accept when you're running a Stoneforge Mystic deck. Not too sure. As far as how the deck actually did, I think it did fine. I think I'm definitely losing some percentage points by just not being familiar with this deck in specific. And definitely also I lose some by not really being sure how to construct this deck. I took what I think was just a pretty stock list of Eldrazi taxes, and I needed to take 7 cards out, and I wasn't really sure what to take out. I ended up taking out some Flicker Wisp, some Wasteland Strangler, but maybe that was wrong. Don't really know. Yeah, that was Eldrazi taxes. We're still churning on here in the Stoneforge Trials. I think we're doing okay. I think we're learning a lot. As far as how Eldrazi taxes did overall, yeah, I think it's okay. I think we can still do better. Still definitely learning how to stretch my deck building skills and how Stoneforge works. But anyway, that is going to be Eldrazi taxes.